Welcome, dirty peasants, to episode 95 of Wartwood Gazette, the Amphibia podcast. I'm your host, the Baticon, and joining me today we have Impact.
Yo, what's good, everybody?
All right, thanks, Impact, for coming on. This week's topic is going to be about the Amphibia Pilot. So I kind of debated doing this recording or not because for those of you who don't know the story, like back in 2021, I believe. Let me just check how old these videos I have with me are. But basically, I think during season two, the pilot leaked on YouTube, or more of like the sizzle reel of the pilot. So this was like a 2 minute clip, kind of just like summarizing like what Amphibia was kind of about. It's kind of a little bit like a promo, and this is just something to like help get the show pitched. So that came out way back when, and then like kind of over the years we got more information about like what the show was like before it was actually the show. So you had Matt, I think, at Pixelotl, that's like a South American expo. Matt kind of like talked a little bit about about his pitch or the Bible for the story Bible for Amphibia, and then eventually that got released online. So I was always kind of like hesitant to talk about it, but I think Matt eventually just said that he didn't really care if it got discussed or not. And since we're kind of like running near the end of the podcast, I thought, why not?
Yeah,
Before
what
we,
the heck? I mean, it's not like the.
oh,
Oh, I'm
go,
sorry.
no,
Don't
no, no,
keep
go,
going.
go ahead, Impact.
I was gonna say it's not like the pilot gives us like. So I think it wasn't too bad when eventually when this one was leaked. It's pretty much his best Franz, but like with some twist to it. So it still gets to the core idea of the show. So yeah,
hmm Yeah, it doesn't reveal too, like, even when it aired way back when in 2020, I think, it didn't really reveal much about the show, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
no.
Before we get into the pilot, news. So it's August 9th. This will probably be uploaded a bit later, though, like maybe in September. There was like a Sasha centric uh, panel that happened at, I think, Anime Con
Yeah,
and
Anime Expo.
Anime Expo. Okay, and that didn't really reveal too much. We did get confirmation that the Art Amphibia book got delayed to 2025. I'm not sure if we talked about it in the last.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
Okay, I think at the time it wasn't
yeah.
confirmed, but yeah, now it's confirmed, which is fine. Like, as long as it's good, it'll be fine.
Yeah, and I think didn't Matt I think Matt might have mentioned something about wanting to continue this story too. Like there was like another I'm not sure if he mentioned this way earlier. It felt like it feels like he mentioned it recently where he was like willing to continue the story and move forward with it. Some more graphic novels were on the way. I don't know if we talked about that or not.
Maybe we did, but basically the Marcy's Journal sold really well.
Super well.
Yeah, so getting stuff made, I think, isn't the issue from Tokyo. Like from the publishing side, that's not a barrier,
Yeah.
which is a really good thing. So getting honestly, 2022 is when Amphibia ended. Just getting anything else after that is always going to be a bonus.
Yeah, I mean it's not like we're gonna get like like anything crazy, like a season 4 or something. So it's like, all the stuff we're gonna be getting is like small stuff, like an art book or she's journal, which is just kind of adding some extra like meat to the story that you don't need, but it's nice. I would say though, I hope for the next all the upcoming Amphibia stuff, it's a little careful with how it expands on the show. Just because like Amphibia as a show kind of only works because it ends.
Hmm.
Like the message and idea of the show only functions if the show is over. Like of like things change and some things don't last forever, but the impact it has on your life does. So ultimately, like I would just for when we get graphic novels and stuff, it's kind of in their mind, like to not try to like not downplay the ending, but like fuck up the message of the show. I hope that's something they're careful about. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And so I did find the original pitch pilot, like the first like 2 minute kind of reveal, or not reveal, 2 minute like
Mhm.
pitch video, and that was from January 2021. So that was around, that was just
Oh
after the first half of season two, before before the second half of season two, basically. So I think we can just go right into like the pilot episode. And if you haven't
let's
seen,
do it.
yeah, if you haven't seen it, basically it does take a lot of the pilot is basically Best Franz, but there's like stuff from like maybe future episodes or earlier episodes or maybe some scrap concepts that are kind of just all like mishmashed together. Especially the first couple minutes of this pilot are kind of like pulling stuff from like different things. Like like the intro is kind of like a bit more extended when they get into Amphibia, and kind of gives like a quick like rundown on like she's kind of like already with the planters, and they kind of just like explain how
Yeah.
she ended up with them. So they kind of like fast forward. So Andrew Beast isn't really a thing in this pilot. It's mostly like Best Franz. And
Yeah, and it's interesting because with this version of the story, like, yeah, because Anne just gets straight into it. She just explains, okay, this is how I got here, and I'm with the planters, and yada yada. And it's interesting, kind of like, because in the show, right, like the girls' relationship is kind of like this mystery that slowly and surely you're getting information throughout the show about. So it's kind of weird for Anne to just flat out just explain everything about not everything about the dynamic, but like just explain like how she got there, what happened there, and then boom. Like there's no mystery to it at the start of the episode. So it's interesting that the best Franz we got in the final show kept more to that dynamic that the rest of the show is going to keep going with slowly and surely revealing information about their dynamic. So I wonder if that meant like they were gonna go in a different direction with the girls' relationship. Like it was gonna be a lot more direct about how their dynamic worked. Like it wasn't some like not mystery. Well, yeah, like mystery where you're slowly and surely getting bits and pieces of it. Was it gonna be just more directly told to you kind of thing earlier on? I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about because it's a subtle difference. It's not like something crazy. So
yeah, it is like probably because for the sake of the pilot, they did want to make things more like direct.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. That's probably the best case for that. Um, But it is interesting though, because like the music box and Get is really different from the show. Like they don't have the Dree gemstones don't exist like on it. It's just like a box with a frog on it. And Sasha has the key for the box and
Hmm.
she opens it up. That's really different from the show because I'm pretty sure the key for the music box is something only Andreas uses in the show, right? Like it's no other character like even has access to the key. You know what I mean? Like the key's only a plot point in season 3 and that's it. You know? So that was interesting. And again, no gemstones, which is like really weird because those are like an essential part of the plot, like for most of the show. So like again, it's just a random design. I'm pretty sure that wasn't thought out, like the powers and the things like that. Um, but I don't know. It's a small thing. It makes me wonder again how the show would have went if we went with like that Calamity box instead of the one we have now. And it looks a lot more magical too, the way they get zapped to Amphibia
Yeah, it's like a frog streak like
instead of
wraps
like
around them and whatever. And
yeah, it's it's super different. I don't know how that would have worked in the show, but there's also a question of like I've mentioned this before. Like, there's also a question of like when did the sci-fi elements of Amphibia become like a major part in like the production of the show? Like, when was that thought about? Because it feels like here that's not the case. Things feel a lot more magical, like mythic or whatever. Like, and even in the Bible, there's nothing about robots and like ancient civilizations and gem powers and super saiyans and whatever. Like, that's not a thing. So, I don't know. It's interesting to see this early version of the show kind of not include those elements.
yeah, and I still really liked how Ann and Sprig's dynamic played out. Like it does feel a lot like I'm glad that carried over from the pilot, and I just really love that Carson joke where where his best friend's like the dead fish.
Oh, yeah, that was funny. That was good. And again, not too different from the original Best Franz episode, except I think with the dead fish, I think that was a little funnier than the than the scene we got in the show. I don't know. Something about it I liked a little more. I can't quite explain it though.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of wish they kept that in the pilot, just because like I just love how they ended with him, like because like he basically when him and Anne become like officially friends and like bonded by the episode, and he buries the dead fish at the end. I just thought it was just like poetic.
I gotcha.
Oh, and this in this episode or in this pilot, like Hop Hop knows that they went out, so that was just an interesting change.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because he gets involved into like the final conflict. Because before it was just kind of no, it was kind of Sprig and Ann like just fighting off the monster of the week. But here like Hop Hop actually is like around to chastise the kids and whatnot. That stuff is interesting, and I feel like even Hop Pop's characterization is different. But I'll wait to talk about that when we get to that point. So
And also the Chickalis is like basically the monster of the week, and it showed up. Yeah, it showed up in the
yeah,
theme song, but like we never. It's interesting to see how it was like the first kind of like monster of the week in the pilot, but like then eventually that got kind of pushed out until season two.
yeah, and it's not like a mythical creature or anything like that that has to be summoned. It's just a regular
Fire
beast
breathing
of the
chicken.
world. Yeah, which again, really interesting how that turned out. Because again, the Chickless, like you said, it was a part of the intro, so like it's kind of always been a part of the show, but like it really only gets a chance in season 2 and then dips out. Um, So, and even like, well, the way they beat the chickless isn't that different from the snake. Like they throw dynamite in its mouth, but before it was like hot chili peppers
Hmm.
in the snake's mouth. So, um,
I do like how they
yeah,
end the
it's
pilot.
not too different.
Yeah, like even the end of the pilot ends the same way as Best Franz with like the Sasha reveal and Grime.
Yeah, like speaking of those two, of well, mainly like, because Sasha and Marcy look pretty not that different, but it definitely feels like their designs aren't finished
Hmm.
in this version of the show. Um, which is interesting because they're supposed to be kind of big parts of the story, and we know Marcy changed like the most out of all the girls, like in the pre-planning of the show. You can even see that in the Bible where like Marcy's a bard in the Pitch Bible, and she's not in the pilot, so she doesn't even have like a real identity yet.
Hmm.
And then yeah, you can definitely tell she's the character who changes the most in the production of the show. Like she's definitely the most flexible of them. So and then
And that's kind
trying
of,
to think of any other
you wanted to talk
changes.
about
Like I
Hop
think
Hop,
that's
right?
it. Oh yeah, yeah. Like I feel like Hot Pot's characterization is a little different in this one. I feel like he screams a lot more in this. Like I feel like Bill Farmer is yelling every line he has, and it's just very funny. I think he's a lot more. I don't want to say he's a lot more of a stickler, but I think I don't know. It feels like he's a lot. He's a little meaner than his.
Yeah, I can see that.
his yeah, which I don't. Which I kind of like, to be honest. I don't know. Like I think season one Hot Pop is like a character who can be that way sometimes, but he's like a lot more likable. Because you get to know him a lot better. But here he kind of just seems like he seems a lot more grumpy and stern and willing to kind of like be a little more mean to Sprig and Ann a bit, and just kind of make them do things when they're being just a little lazy. So like more stricter Hot Pot. Yeah, an interesting change in characterization there. Um, and that's about it. Polly's pretty much exactly the same. They make the same jokes if we're stuck in a bucket all the time. Not too different. Um, Sprig, not too different either. I mean, his voice is completely different. I forget the name of the guy who voices them in this. Um,
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but
I should know the name.
He voices Gideon in Gravity Falls.
Yeah, yeah, I know that. I'm like, oh man, I'll look it up later. But yeah, Sprig's voice is a little different, but it doesn't really change that much of the character. I feel like it makes Sprig feel a little more mature than Anne. Not mature than Anne. A little more mature than like his canon counterpart. Because you can tell like Canon Sprig is a kid. Like he's definitely younger than Anne. Like for sure. You get that vibe out of the voice that Justin brings out of the character. So but here not too much, but I I don't think I would have minded this version of Sprig in like this voice for Sprig in the show.
I think it's a little, I don't know, it sounds because I know it's like an older guy playing him, but like maybe because I'm used to Sprig's voice now, so like I kind of prefer the what we got.
The discussion in of itself, because I do think Brenda Song's performance of Anne does change quite a bit in the show. I think it gets better as time goes along. You can tell she's getting more and more familiar with the character's voice. here she sounds so
Impact, you kind of cut out for
mature.
me. So like I didn't
Trying to
hear
think of Grime is like not voiced by was it Troy Baker who voiced
yeah, so
Grime, right?
Bill Farmer did
In the
voice
show?
Grime in this
Pretty
one.
sure. It's not voiced by him in this version. It's kind of just super deep voice. I don't know who voices him here, but very deep voice. So,
Impact, can you hear me?
but the line is like overall the same, and the kind of the general gist of the so it's pretty much the same.
Uh, Impact, can you hear me?
I don't think anything else. I'm kind of forgetting off the top of my head. Ooh, the backgrounds are different. That's a big one. Like Amphibia is a lot more like not nasty-ish, but like the sky is like no thumb, I cannot hear you. Like,
Okay, but I can hear you on my end. Okay, so let me. Whoever's listening to this, we're having a bit of audio
okay, I can't
issues.
hear you.
Let me. How about now?
Uh, but yeah, like the sky is a little bit more reminiscent of like how season like through how 3B is. And I don't like so I'm kind of glad they didn't go for that in this one, especially since like Frog Valley's not the only place we can be throughout the rest of the show. So I'm glad they changed that up quite a bit.
Yeah,
But yeah.
like, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. But so I know you
Yeah.
talked about the background, you talked about Brenda's song. So, Bill Farmer did voice Grime in the pilot.
Oh, okay. I remember him talking about that. Yeah, 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 you're right. I remember him talking about that. Yeah. I like his grime. It's definitely very different from Troy Baker's version of the character. I'm getting that right, right?
Hmm.
You voiced grime, right? Am I bugging? Like,
No, yeah, Troy Baker voiced Grime in the
okay,
show.
okay. Okay, I'm just making sure. Sometimes I forget. Um, yeah, because Troy's performance of grime is like I mean, Grimes' performance in general fluctuates throughout the show because the character's always changing. So, but I do like Bill Farmer's Grime though. I think that's a fun take on the character. It's a lot more like deep and growly, which I think fits the Toads a little more in this version. I feel like the way the Toads are depicted, at least through the montage or whatever, they feel a lot more like they
Evil.
feel meaner than yeah, they feel a lot meaner than in the original show. I felt like the show did a good job of like making the Toad still a threat, but they also felt human. You know what I mean? Like you had Percy and Braddock there, and Rhyme was still like a three-dimensional character too, and Bog was also a character who wasn't just one note, I'm evil, punch the frogs in the face. He still had objectives, you know. But here it definitely seems like the Toads are just kind of like full on big bad evil. So
Yeah, the pilot's mostly like storyboards, but once you get into that like sizzle reel, like with like that montage at the end of the pilot about like basically the events of season one, I just think it's fantastic. Like I know what we got in 2021 was very similar to what we got in 2024, but the 2024 one is more like has more stuff added in, and just you get like a better look at like you mentioned the backgrounds and the colors. Like it's much more like grimy and not saturated, but more like
yeah,
a lot more like browns, and it feels like something from the mid 2000s.
Yeah, yeah. I can see what you mean.
And I think this was
Oh,
made.
and even like, oh no, you keep going.
Oh, I was just gonna say like
Keep going.
this pilot was probably made around like 2015, before the show got picked up.
Ah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But you're gonna say something?
I was gonna say like, oh, I was gonna mention that like, actually, it doesn't really matter too much. Toad Tower is a little different. It looks more like a fortress than a tower. Like the the way it looks like.
Hmm.
Um, which again doesn't mean too much. The montage itself. Oh, like I don't think the 2021 one had the blue sword, right?
It didn't. That's
Like,
why I was like,
yeah, yeah, that was so cool. It felt like more like a lightsaber than anything, the way it's Anne pulls it out. And Hop Pop gives her the sword. And that's interesting. Like it wasn't Tritonio here, which
I don't want to
I
play the
like that idea.
I don't want to play the audio because like it'll interrupt the recording. But I know, does he say it's like it was in their family, the sword?
I, I can hold on. Let me check. I think I could.
But while you
Uh,
check that, like, I just love because everything in the pilot is like very like gritty. Not in terms of like content, but just like the background and the colors. Like those special like lighting effects do stick out a lot more. It just looks really like nice. Like even when
oh, I
Grimes
can see what you mean.
when Grimes like stabs the map and like all of, like the runes light up, like just like the glow of that, and then the glow of the blue swords. I just love it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. I don't think he doesn't say anything about it being in his family or anything. He just says be careful
Oh,
with it, and
okay.
then Anne just messes around and starts swinging all over the place because it looks cool. So, which is very in character for Anne. So, yeah.
I just love how Rather Be's playing. I wish, because it's such a fitting song for the show. I wish they found a way to incorporate it in the show. Like in
Into the show.
I know they tried to do it for like All In, like in the finale, but it didn't fit. So then they went with Blackpink.
Wait, they did?
Yeah,
Wait,
Matt
I
mentioned
didn't know that.
I forgot in which interview, but like he did mention that like they tried to fit in Rather Be, but then it didn't mesh.
Which is weird because all like Anne like
K-pop, yeah.
Blackpink never was. Yeah, never showed up in the show. Like they just made that up at the last minute, and I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense. Like she had no, I don't know, but yeah, that's interesting because it the track does fit really well with Anne's like character piece. I'd argue it fits more of season two than season one, to be honest, because season one is like Anne like figuring out if she likes Amphibia or not. But season two is kind of the point where the character is like solidified. No, I love this place, and like I found myself here, and it kind of fits with like I guess in a way too. Like it even fits Marcy's narrative too, if that makes sense. So the one we got in the show, obviously.
Hmm.
So I do wish they found a way to put it into the show. I mean, it's not like they were gonna put it in like Battle of the Bands or something. So which would have worked. It's just like I don't think they were gonna get a licensed song.
Yeah, it would have fit, but then like I'm glad we
So
got No Big Deal, because like as much as I like licensed songs, like just the show, like having the show do some original stuff is great. Is better.
yeah, and it's like it's the whole idea of the more I think about it, the whole idea of the episode is Anne's song that she creates. It'd be a little weird if she just used like an actual song. Like it just ripped it off and plagiarized it. Like that'd be a little weird. So yeah, just no real way to fit it into the show. Besides, maybe all in or some point in the credits. But even in the credits it wouldn't really work either. I feel like all the original music worked well there. So
And like
yeah.
even Amphibia's ending, it's not like the bad guy's dead, let's dance ending. It's a very like it's a very like yeah, things are great, but like also shit sucks, yo. Like okay,
Yeah.
no, not that like things suck. It's just like oh,
Yeah.
like this is sad. Like I
It's
yeah,
bittersweet.
it's
It's
bittersweet. Yeah,
bittersweet. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think of
yeah. I've kind of covered everything I
anything
wanted to
else.
talk about for the pilot. I'm just scrolling through the Bible.
Yeah.
Oh, and for context, people, like all of this was leaked, and leaking stuff is bad,
Yeah.
but
Don't
it
leak stuff.
but it's out there. Um, and the show ended 2 years ago, so it's fine. No. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going through the pitch Bible, so it's like there was going to be a character called Egbert. It was like a Tamagotchi kind of thing, and then
Yeah, that's a weird
yeah, and they're like
like
hinting at like
addition for Anne.
yeah, they have it like talking to Anne, and then there's like it's kind they keep it like ambiguous if it's like actually like a sentient thing now or not.
Like Anne's just crazy throughout the whole show. That's funny. But it's weird though because it feels like Sprig should fit that role for Anne to be like her confidant, like as a source of advice and encouragement. Because that's what Sprig is in the show. Like,
Hmm.
if Anne's not feeling right, she'll just go to Sprig and be like, "Can you help me out?" Or talk about it. So I feel like having another character like that feels a little unnecessary, and like Egbert just does not fit the show. Like the show that we currently have now. Like I couldn't imagine a character like that actually being in the show.
If they tied it to the
Um,
gems and like the Guardian, I don't think it fits the pilot show, but I think it could fit in like the show we got.
You'd have to rework it a little bit. Maybe like
It
I
would
don't
it
know,
would
like maybe Egbert is the Guardian,
it would
like
feel
or
very
something.
like if that thing showed up in season 1 and 2, it would feel very out of place and people would be so confused and then like having that pay off in season 3 would just be insane.
Yeah, huh.
It'd be like what we got in And Hunter.
Yeah. But like the character's here for the whole show though. That's not the same thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's one episode versus a whole character who like has to get like be important to the plot. Like could you imagine having Egbert be involved in like True Colors or something? I can't think of that in my head. Like
like
you
like
know.
Sprig is dropped out like when Sprig gets dropped out the window and like Anne's like crying and like montaging like you could just like you'll see like Egbert's like Tamagotchi face just show up on the screen just be like do it Anne do it like all Palpatine sounding.
That's so funny. And like the context that it's the Guardian too is just funnier. Like
Smoke them. But
Oh, that's
it'd feel
interesting.
like one of those like anime kind of like you know how like one character will say a joke and then everyone becomes like chibi sized and it's like and they get more like overly expression, like their expressions are more like extra, and then they go back to like the normal character models. I I
Yeah, yeah,
feel
I know what you
I feel
mean.
like Egbert like tying to Anne would be like one of those like odd like moments.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't in the show, to be honest with you. So,
Okay, but like if it was in the
um,
show, I feel like people would complain about the Guardian a lot less.
probably, but like I feel like there are better ways you could do it.
I know, cause like the show is so
And
like
I don't
we're so
know.
used to the people in the show being like, oh, like this is like people complain about something not paying off, and then eventually pays off. I think this would just be one of those like, and just another one of those things.
Yeah, because I think having the Guardian be more involved is a little weird, though, right?
Hmm.
Because then
Yeah,
it's sort of like the Guardian.
it takes away from Anne's own
Like,
development. I think.
yeah, yeah, like Anne is doing this not because some random conscious thing is like telling her to do this stuff, you know? And like it feels like the Guardians pushing Anne to be good rather than her just naturally learning it. And like it kind of messes because so the Guardians looking for a successor, like would it not want to interact with the other two girls too? You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that's also something to think about too. So if it's connected to the gems, I guess if it's connected to the box, you know, I guess in this scenario, maybe the box would talk. That'd be weird. But like, if Egbert was the box instead of the Tamagotchi thing, but that would really change the show. But yeah, I don't know. I having the Guardian be involved more with the plot, I think messes with a few things, just with the characters' arcs as a whole. Maybe I don't know.
I do like how.
Think about that.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go. You go. I'm done.
Oh, I was just gonna move on to like I was gonna mention how like in the Bible there's like a love interest for Anne, like Sir Gunther. Would man, it's like it's very one
Yeah.
sided though. It's not like it's not like that. It's not like one of
Yeah.
those. But I do like how like
Yeah.
I do like how like there's like a page about long term goals and it's mostly focused on Anne and that kind of like carries through to the main show. And
Yeah, because like the general goal of putting Anne is kind of a whatever, doesn't really have an identity from her friends into someone who like grows into a heroic character is, kind of just the whole focus of the show. So it's great to see that was like sort of the general focus. So like that was always the goal, end game goal of that. That never really changed too much. So
and I do like how I know you mentioned Marcy and Sasha, and also the last page it has like sample episodes. Um, just minor thing. I just love how one of the examples is like Weed and Anne go to town together to sell produce.
which one is that? That's
The
like,
last page of the pitch Bible, it's sample episodes.
oh,
Um, but then the like Matt distinguishes from like sample episodes and like story episode, and like he has an example of a story episode.
yeah. Anne discovers one of her lost friends, Marcy, working as a bard in a strange
Hmm.
nearby town. That would have been an interesting season one episode. Okay. That would have been very different. Um, she refuses to leave her life as a celebrity, which sounds familiar. That sounds like what's that episode where Anne has the pimples?
Oh,
Um,
let me check it. It's
trying to remember.
I'm just like not Civil Wart.
It's not.
It's not, and it's not Contagion. It's Breakout Star.
God dang it. Breakout Star. There we go. Like, except the difference here is that like the town has no intention of letting Marcy go free ever again. And then Anne and we'd have to help her escape from a mob of adoring fans. That's funny. That's interesting to again, Marcy character changes drastically, but it is interesting to think that Marcy could just randomly show up in season one. This and it sounds like a goofy episode too. It doesn't sound like something like Reunion where it's like very action packed and the stakes are really high. So,
Yeah, it's
I
not that like it doesn't sound like a heavy episode, but in the pilot,
yeah, and does that mean Marcy would just join the cast? Like just
maybe,
straight up?
or
How would that
maybe
go?
they'll do like excuse where it's
Huh.
like, oh, I must go, my people need me, or like, oh, I'll look for Sasha and I know where you are now. It's like, okay, see you later. I actually I have no idea how it would play out. That because I
That'd be
that's
hilarious. Well, I feel like okay, because this doesn't say this specifically in the Bible we're looking at, but there's another Bible where they were mentioning like Marcy was like figuring herself out beyond the girls and was like okay with staying in Amphibia, like which is really different from the show because in the show, yes, Marcy wants to stay in Amphibia, but she wants to stay with it with Anne and Sasha. Like that's something that has to be the case. She wants to stick with them with forever and ever, right? Like it kind of brings out kind of the toxic mentality of that. And that kind of changes the character's whole arc later at the end of the show. So I don't know. Like I feel like our canon version of Marcy wouldn't do that. Like if she found Anne, she was sticking with her, right?
yeah.
The whole time. Like that's what she's trying to do at the aquarium. Like she's not just gonna just pop out and find Sasha. But I don't know about this one. Maybe she was willing to just be like, nah, I'm just gonna stay here and like stay in this town. So again, very different character goal there. Sasha still seems pretty much the same, though.
I do want to point out because like
Um,
in my copy of the pilot, I don't have this scene, but basically at the end of the sizzle, like after the pilot and after the like season preview, there was another clip similar to Reunion where like Sasha's encountering Anne and Sprig with like possessed green eyes. And like apparently initially like
yeah,
I forgot where Matt mentioned it. It might have been at the Anime Expo actually, but or
it
anime.
was. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it
where like
was.
yeah, Sasha was originally going to be like possessed by something. And that background
Yeah, which
that
is
that back it looks like it's outdoors, but it doesn't look like it's on a tower. Like it doesn't look like it's onto a tower, but it reminds me a lot of what we got in the season 2 intro where we have like that brief like new scene of like Sasha like striking Anne like in some like around some like ruins near Utopia.
oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. I see the similarity now. Huh. Yeah, because I think that because the toads don't seem like they're implying they're like part of some mythical force or anything, unless the glowing eyes meant something. Which actually, wait, they might have actually now, but um, yeah, it's weird. Why? I wonder why Matt wanted Sasha to be like possessed or something, because that's not a thing in the Bibles, like in any of them, like
Hmm.
because there's multiple like Amphibia pitch Bibles, so like none of them have that possession thing be a part of the characters. So I do wonder why that was in Matt's head for it. Because it's not like Sasha's. It doesn't really sound like she's talking that differently. Like, but they use the whole like "I've changed too" kind of thing, or like Sasha's really. I don't know the whole like "I've changed because of the possession" thing in beginning of the end. Eventually, um.
Yeah, and
So I don't know.
that's all I kind of have to say on the pilot. Any final thoughts, Impact?
Um. Some of the like it. No, not too much. I mean, I feel like the Sasha stuff, like the Queen Sasha thing, is interesting, just because apparently it's something Sasha always wanted to do. Is another one of the Bibles mentioned it, where she always wanted to be like a princess or something. It felt like Sasha's want fantasy of Amphibia, the fantasy of Amphibia, was kind of put to Marcy eventually, but like the power hungry manipulative part was still kept for Sasha throughout each iteration of the show. And then I don't know, that's interesting to think about how Marcy and Sasha's like character goals shifted throughout the series. Like I don't know if there's some point we could ever ask Matt about that, like about all the iteration Marcy and Sasha kind of went through till they get to the end. Hopefully, we'll get some more stuff in the art book. I'm interested to see all of Marcy's designs and how different of a character she is throughout that iteration. Because I bet you we're just gonna get so many differences. Because in like, I don't know. It's just it is weird that like it mentions that like Sasha is like a barbaric warlord of a fiance. That's I don't know how I feel about that. I'm glad that wasn't part of the show. Um, yeah, that I don't know. That's a little like, nah, don't do that. Um, so they dodged the bullet on that one. But other than that, that's really it.
All right, thank you, Impact. And yeah, my overall thoughts, I really liked. It was nice to see what got carried over into like the main show from the pilot, and I just liked how the stuff that was really good was still there, except for the Carson dead fish joke. I still wish that that got carried over, but everything else was really like interesting to see. And Matt has talked about what the show was like before it became what it is now. But it's just nice to actually like see some of it.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I'm not going to like post any links to where you can find this stuff. Like if you can, you could probably find it if you tried. So it's out there. It's actually on YouTube.
I
But
don't think it is actually. I think the original upload got like removed or something. So,
like I just searched it.
but
Like
it's out there.
yeah,
Oh,
there is stuff out,
oh, never mind.
and like also other YouTubers covered it. So
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be there forever. So,
mhm. But yeah, that's all for today. Thanks everyone for listening, and next time we'll be talking about. Let me see what's left.
I think we got the tier list now. I think it's about time.
Yes.
Woo!
I still need to figure out
Yeah,
how
baby.
if we want to show our faces in that or how to get the because I can getting the tier list to recording the tier list is easy. Having our faces on the side is another thing, but I kind of want to do it
Uh,
just because I want to I think it's more fun if we can see our reactions when we duke it out.
I gotcha.
But yeah, until then, thanks for listening, and see you guys next time. Say goodbye, Impact.
Peace, everybody. Have a good one.
See ya.